One day, on the coast of Cork, Syracuse, a divorced fisherman, finds a nearly drowned woman in his net. He approaches her with much surprise, and it turns out she is still alive. Syracuse assists the strange lady to get rid of the water in her body, after which he tries to inquire from her exactly what happened but cannot make out anything from what she is saying. He takes her into his boat and covers her with his t-shirt, wanting to call a doctor, but she vehemently refuses, saying that she wants no one to see her, for some reasons which Syracuse does not understand yet. He asks for her name, and she replies saying her name is Ondine, which means she came from the sea. Syracuse insists that he will take her into town where she can get medical attention in a hospital, but she refuses, so he takes her to an isolated cottage that was his mother's. He makes her comfortable and gives her food, after which he leaves the cottage, arriving home to see his daughter, Annie. His precious daughter has failing kidneys, and Syracuse, who had taken to drinking when his wife left, had to stop in order to be able to take care of Annie. Syracuse takes her to see a doctor, and he is told that Annie is not getting better anytime soon. He tells her a story about how he found a strange, beautiful, and mysterious lady named Ondine in his fishing nets. Syracuse would often drop Annie at Mora's house so he can go to work. He returns to the cottage and finds Ondine washing her clothes in a small lake. They go out to the docks, boarding his boat and heading out to the sea, where she sings a siren song, mysteriously causing his net to be magically filled with lobsters and seafood in great numbers. Hard to believe. When they return to land, Syracuse is so happy and wants to take her into the town, but she refuses yet again. After counting and selling off the excess of his lobsters and seafood, Syracuse goes to a shop looking to buy some clothes for Ondine. Instead of actually buying, he is seen stealing some things from the shop. He goes to pick Annie from school, and they talk about Ondine on their way home. Syracuse tells Annie about how Ondine sings to the fishes and they fall into his net. Annie, who has not seen Ondine yet, thinks Syracuse is dreaming. She thinks Ondine is not human, but just a story made up by Syracuse for her entertainment. He returns to the cottage, and Ondine is seen trying on the shoes given to her by Syracuse, including a new dress which she deeply appreciates. Before leaving, he asks how long she is staying, and she tells Syracuse that it all depends on him. He wants her to stay forever and reveals to her that he told Annie about her. Syracuse goes to the church where he meets the priest and confesses that he met a woman whom he is beginning to feel something for. He also confesses to stealing ladies' clothes for her to wear and explains how he met Ondine while fishing. The priest absolves Syracuse of his sins and he leaves. The following day, Annie visits the cottage and finds Ondine swimming at the lake. Annie makes her say a set of words to confirm that she is indeed real. She informs Ondine that her dad told her a story about her, then proceeds to inquire if she possesses any magical powers. Ondine formally introduces herself to Annie, who examines her hand for webs. Annie raises questions that convinces Ondine that she knows a lot about her. She calls Ondine a selkie, which means a mythical creature able to become human by taking off her seal coat and can return to seal form by putting it back on. However, like all fairy tales, enchantments and darkness go hand in hand. Annie hopes that Ondine has come to live on land for 7 years, and that she can use her selkie wish to cure her kidney failure. Somewhere by the lighthouse, a man named Vladik is seen eating a can of sardine and seems to be looking for something or someone. Syracuse takes Ondine out to sea again and teaches her how to sail his boat. She sings the siren song again while steering with her feet, and when Syracuse pulls out his fishing net from the water, he has a whole lot of salmon, too much for one person to consume. They are accosted by 2 fishing patrol officers who question the quantity of the fishes caught by him. While searching the boat, they find Ondine hiding under Syracuse's net. They ask her how he caught the salmon, and she replies, singing. When the patrol officers leave the boat, he asks how she feels about being seen by other people, and she says she felt nothing. While returning home, Vladik and his men spot them along with other fishermen around. This motivates Ondine to go into town with Syracuse. They meet up with Annie, and together, they visit a clothes store where Ondine tries on a few dresses which Syracuse is prepared to buy for her. Much later, Annie visits the cottage again, and this time Ondine takes her into the water to teach her how to swim. While at it, Ondine feels something on her feet and quickly dives into the water to get it out. Annie thinks it's Ondine's magical seal coat. Together, they bury the coat at the back of the cottage, and Annie uses her steps to measure the exact location of the coat. The following day, Syracuse takes Ondine and Annie out to sea, where the community are having a few sea games. When they make it back on land, amidst the crowd, Ondine is seen chasing after Annie, who lets herself off the barrier and into the water. Ondine goes after her and Annie is rescued. It appears the brakes of her wheelchair failed. Syracuse takes Annie to Mora's house, then returns to the cottage with Ondine, who noticed that he was called Syracuse the Clown back in town. He explains that it's a nickname he is trying to outlive, one that he has earned for his previous drinking habit. Syracuse falls helplessly in love with Ondine. He kisses her and they make love all night. Syracuse returns to see the priest at the confessional, asking him if Ondine is real. He is worried that Ondine brings him luck and he doesn't know why. Vladik confronts Syracuse just outside the church, but he pays no attention to him. Later that night, Ondine notices a car driving towards the cottage, and it turns out to be Vladik. She escapes right before he arrives inside the cottage, asking if someone is home. Ondine watches from the bushes as Vladik quietly walks away. When Syracuse returns to the cottage, he calls out to Ondine, having seen the wreck inside the cottage. He finds her hiding by a cave. She tells him about Vladik, a terrifying man who has come to get her. Syracuse makes Ondine wish that Annie wasn't sick, believing it would come to pass. On her way back home, Mora collides with Vladik, causing a fatal accident, which kills her husband instantly. When Syracuse returns to pick Annie, he discovers there has been an accident and demands to see Annie, who was in the car with them. Annie survives the crash, and Syracuse is told that they have found a tissue match for her. A surgery is immediately conducted for Annie. Vladik confronts Ondine at the hospital. Turns out he is her husband and simply wants her back, but she walks away. Annie seems fine after the surgery. Hours later, Mora is accompanied to the water where she disposes the ashes of her dead husband. That evening, Syracuse makes Ondine board the boat. He tells her that he is taking her home. She claims that Vladik is not really her husband. Syracuse pulls Ondine towards a building far away from town, where he thinks she would be safe for now. She runs back to meet him, screaming for him not to let her go, but he thinks that his kind and her kind do not belong together. Ondine is left all alone on the island far away from town. Back at home, while watching TV, Annie comes across a man singing a song similar to the one Ondine used to sing to them. He is moved by the sound of the music and goes outside, looking out into the sea with mixed feelings for Ondine. Syracuse quickly boards his boat and returns to the island, screaming out her name, desperately searching for her. He eventually finds her lying beside a wrecked ship, so weak she is unable to move. She tells him the truth, saying that she is a creature from the sea that found her suit and buried it because she found a family she loves. However, that's one truth. The actual truth is that she is a prisoner and drug mule from Romania. She was in a boat with a kilo of heroin in her backpack, about to be caught by the Coast Guard alongside her selkie husband, but she dived into the water and escaped until she found herself inside his fishing net. She also confesses that her real name is Johanna. They arrive home only to find Vladik inside the house. Syracuse attacks him but is made to back down by one of Vladik's men. They want the kilo of heroin which Ondine escaped with. Annie does not want Ondine to give it to them, but she promises to show them where it is buried in exchange for their safety. However, they are unable to find the kilo after digging. Turns out Annie moved it to a different location, so Ondine pleads with her to take them to the kilo before somebody gets hurt. Annie had taken the kilo and hid it inside Syracuse's lobster pot. While pulling the pot out of the water, Ondine pushes the men overboard, causing them to drown instantly. They are rescued by the police, and Ondine is arrested. Syracuse pays a visit to her in prison. After serving her sentence, the couple get married and they lived happily ever after. This is Falcon Recaps. Thanks for watching.